I never thought my own daughter would lie to me about something so important, but there I was, staring at papers that proved everything I believed about my home was wrong. My name is Lorraine, I'm 63 years old, and I learned the hard way that trust can be the most expensive thing you'll ever give away. It started on a Tuesday morning when I was watering my roses in the front yard. The same roses I'd planted when I first bought this house 28 years ago. Back then, I was a single mother working 2 jobs just to make the mortgage payments. Every month was a struggle, but I was determined to give my daughter Monica a stable home. Monica pulled into my driveway that morning in her shiny new car. She'd been doing well for herself as a real estate agent, always dressed to impress with her perfect hair and expensive suits. I was proud of how successful she'd become, even if sometimes I felt like we lived in different worlds. "Morning, Mama," she called out, walking up the path with a folder in her hand. "I need to talk to you about something important, about the house." I set down my watering can and wiped my hands on my gardening apron. "What about the house?" Monica sat down on my porch swing, the same one I used to push her on when she was little. "I've been talking to my tax advisor, and there might be a way to save you some serious money. But we need to do some paperwork." I joined her on the swing, curious but not worried. Monica had helped me with financial things before. When I'd needed a new roof 2 years ago, she'd found me the best contractor. When my property taxes seemed too high, she'd helped me apply for the senior discount. "What kind of paperwork?" I asked. "Well, you know how property taxes keep going up every year? My advisor says if we transfer the deed to me temporarily, we can take advantage of some tax benefits. Then after everything processes, we'll put your name back on. It's just a smart financial move." She opened the folder and showed me several official-looking documents. The legal language was confusing, full of words I didn't understand. Monica pointed to different sections, explaining how this would save me thousands of dollars. "But the house would be in your name," I asked, feeling a flutter of uncertainty. "Only temporarily, Mama, just for the paperwork to go through. This is totally normal. My clients do this all the time. Trust me, I know what I'm doing." That word, trust, it felt so natural when it came from my daughter. This was Monica, the little girl I'd rocked to sleep, the teenager I'd helped with homework, the young woman I'd supported through college. Of course I trusted her. "How long would it take?" I asked. "Maybe 6 months, probably less. And Mama, this could save you enough money to finally take that trip to visit Aunt Ruby in Florida you've been talking about." I thought about Aunt Ruby, my sister, who I hadn't seen in 5 years because I could never afford the plane ticket. I thought about my fixed income and how every month seemed to get tighter. "You're sure this is legal? This is safe?" Monica laughed, the same laugh she'd had since she was a baby. "Mama, I'm a licensed real estate agent. This is literally what I do for a living. Would I ever put you at risk?" So I signed the papers. Monica called it a quitclaim deed and explained that it was just transferring ownership temporarily for tax purposes. She even had a notary with her, a professional-looking woman who verified my identity and watched me sign. "This is exactly why I went into real estate," Monica said as we finished the paperwork. "To help people, especially family, make smart financial decisions." For the next few months, everything seemed normal. I continued living in my house, paying the utilities, maintaining the property. Monica would visit every couple of weeks, always cheerful, always asking how I was doing. Sometimes she'd mention that the paperwork was still processing, but that these things always took time. Then came the morning that changed everything. I was in my kitchen making coffee when I heard voices outside. Through my window, I saw Monica standing in my front yard with a man in a suit. They were pointing at different parts of my house, and the man was taking notes on a clipboard. I stepped onto my porch. "Monica, what's going on?" She turned around, and I saw something in her expression I'd never seen before. Guilt? Annoyance? She walked over with the man following behind her. Mama, this is David. He's with the real estate company. We're just doing a market evaluation. Market evaluation for what? The man extended his hand. Mrs. Washington, I'm David Chen. I specialize in helping families transition to senior living communities. Your daughter has been telling me about your situation. My situation? I looked at Monica, confused. What situation? Mama, we need to talk. Monica's voice had changed. It wasn't warm anymore. It was the voice she used with clients, professional and distant. Let's go inside. In my own living room, Monica sat across from me while David Chen remained standing by the window, still taking notes. Mama, you know this house is getting too big for you. The maintenance, the stairs, all those steps to the front door. At your age, wouldn't you be more comfortable in a nice senior community? I'm 63, Monica. I'm not ready for a nursing home. Not a nursing home. A beautiful, active adult community. I've been researching them. Some have pools, activities, transportation services. I stared at my daughter, trying to understand what was happening. Monica, I don't want to move. This is my home. But Mama, you're here all alone. What if something happens? What if you fall down those stairs? And financially, it would make so much more sense. The money from selling this house could pay for your apartment at the senior community, and there would still be enough left over for you to live comfortably. Money from selling my house? Monica, what are you talking about? This is still the temporary arrangement, right, for the taxes? Monica and David exchanged a look. David cleared his throat. Mrs. Washington, I think there might be some confusion. Your daughter owns this property. She's asked me to help find you alternative living arrangements so she can put the house on the market. The room started spinning. I gripped the arms of my chair to steady myself. That's not right. Monica, tell him that's not right. Monica leaned forward, her voice gentle but firm. Mama, the deed transfer went through months ago. This house is legally mine now. I thought you understood that. You said it was temporary. You said it was just for taxes. I said there were tax benefits to the transfer, and there are, for me. The truth hit me like a physical blow. My own daughter had tricked me. The temporary transfer had been permanent. She'd lied to me, used my trust against me, and now she wanted to sell my home out from under me. You can't do this, I whispered. David Chen spoke up again. Actually, ma'am, legally she can. The property is in her name now, but I'm sure we can find you a lovely place at Sunset Meadows. It's a very nice facility. Facility. Like I was some kind of problem to be managed. Monica sighed. Mama, try to see this from my perspective. I'm trying to build a future for my own family. This house is worth over $300,000 now. With that kind of money, you could live anywhere. And honestly, you don't really need all this space. I looked around my living room, at the photos on the mantel from Monica's childhood, at the quilt my mother had made hanging on the wall, at the chair where I'd nursed Monica as a baby. I didn't need all the space. This is my home, I said, my voice stronger now. This is where I raised you. This is where your father and I brought you home from the hospital. Daddy's been gone for 8 years, Mama. You're living in the past. Living in the past. As if 30 years of memories, of making this house a home, meant nothing. As if the sacrifices I'd made to keep a roof over her head when she was growing up were just ancient history. I want you both to leave, I said quietly. Mama, don't be dramatic. We're just having a conversation. I said leave, now. David Chen packed up his clipboard quickly. Monica gathered her purse, but she paused at the door. Mama, I'm trying to help you. I know you're upset, but when you calm down, you'll see this makes sense. I'll call you in a few days. After they left, I sat in my empty house and cried harder than I had since my husband's funeral. My own daughter had stolen my home, and I'd let her do it by signing those papers. That night, I barely slept. I kept thinking about how proud I'd been of Monica's success, how I'd bragged to my friends about my daughter, the real estate agent. How could I have been so naive? The next morning, I called my neighbor, Mrs. Patterson. She was a retired teacher, sharp as a tack even at 75, and she'd always been kind to me. "Lorraine, honey, what's wrong? You sound terrible." I told her everything. About the papers Monica had me sign, about the temporary arrangement that turned out to be permanent, about the real estate agent who wanted to put me in a facility. Mrs. Patterson was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Lorraine, I think you need to talk to a lawyer." "I can't afford a lawyer." "There are legal aid services for seniors. Let me make some calls." 3 days later, I was sitting in the office of Sarah Martinez, an attorney who specialized in elder law. She was younger than Monica, probably in her 30s, but she had kind eyes, and she listened carefully as I explained my situation. "Do you have copies of the documents you signed?" she asked. I'd found them in my desk drawer. Monica had left me copies, probably thinking I'd never really look at them carefully. Ms. Martinez examined them for several minutes, occasionally making notes. "Mrs. Washington, I'm afraid your daughter was correct about one thing. This quitclaim deed does transfer full ownership to her. It wasn't temporary." My heart sank. "So there's nothing I can do?" "Well, that depends. Tell me more about how she convinced you to sign these papers. What exactly did she say?" I recounted the conversation as best I could remember. Ms. Martinez took notes throughout. "Mrs. Washington, what your daughter did might constitute what we call undue influence or even fraud. If she deliberately misrepresented the nature of these documents to get you to sign them, we might have grounds for a legal challenge." Hope flickered in my chest for the first time in days. "Really?" "The key is proving that she deceived you about the permanent nature of the transfer. Do you have any witnesses? Any documentation of what she told you?" I thought carefully. The notary was there when she explained about the taxes. "Do you remember her name?" I did. It was Karen something. It had been on her stamp. "We'll need to track her down and see what she remembers. Also, has your daughter communicated with you about this in writing? Text messages, emails?" I shook my head. Monica always preferred to talk in person or over the phone. Ms. Martinez leaned back in her chair. "Mrs. Washington, I want to be honest with you. These cases can be difficult to prove." "But what your daughter did was wrong, and there might be ways to fight it. Are you prepared for this to get complicated?" I thought about my house. About 30 years of mortgage payments I'd never missed, even when I had to choose between groceries and new shoes for Monica. About the garden I'd cultivated, the neighbors who'd become family, the memories embedded in every room. "Yes," I said, "I'm ready to fight." Ms. Martinez smiled. "Good. Let's start by finding that notary." But, as I left her office that day, I had no idea that the real fight hadn't even begun. Monica was about to show me just how ruthless she could be when her plans were threatened. And I was about to learn that sometimes, the only way to save yourself is to stop being the mother who sacrifices everything and start being the woman who demands what's rightfully hers. Finding Karen Mitchell, the notary, turned out to be easier than I expected. Ms. Martinez had connections in the legal community, and within a week, we had her contact information. Karen worked for a mobile notary service and agreed to meet with us at Ms. Martinez's office. Karen was a woman in her 40s with graying hair and tired eyes. She carried a thick folder with copies of all the documents she'd notarized over the past year. "I remember this appointment," she said, flipping through her records. "It was unusual because the daughter did most of the talking. Usually the property owner asks the questions." "What do you remember about what the daughter said?" Ms. Martinez asked. Karen consulted her notes. She kept talking about tax benefits and how this was a temporary arrangement to help her mother save money. I remember thinking it was odd because quitclaim deeds are permanent transfers. I actually asked about that. My heart started beating faster. What did Monica say? She said her tax advisor had worked everything out and that the property would be transferred back after the tax benefits were processed. She was very confident, very persuasive. I thought maybe there was some new tax strategy I wasn't familiar with. Ms. Martinez leaned forward. Did you say anything to Mrs. Washington about the permanent nature of the deed? I started to, but the daughter interrupted me. She said she'd already explained everything to her mother and didn't want to confuse things with unnecessary legal jargon. I should have insisted on explaining it myself, but Karen trailed off, looking guilty. But the daughter was the one paying for your services, Miss Martinez finished. Yes, and she seemed to know what she was doing. She's a real estate agent. After Karen left, Ms. Martinez turned to me with the first genuinely hopeful expression I'd seen from her. Mrs. Washington, this is exactly what we needed. A witness who heard your daughter misrepresent the nature of the documents. This gives us a real case for fraud and undue influence. What happens now? Now we file a lawsuit to set aside the deed transfer. We'll argue that your consent was obtained through deception. How long will it take? These cases can take months, sometimes over a year, and Mrs. Washington, you should know that your daughter will probably fight this hard. Are you prepared for that? I thought about Monica as a little girl, how she used to climb into my bed during thunderstorms. How proud I'd been at her high school graduation, her college graduation, when she got her real estate license. How quickly that pride had turned to betrayal. I'm prepared. Ms. Martinez filed the lawsuit the following week. Under the legal process, Monica had to be formally served with papers. I wasn't there when it happened, but Mrs. Patterson was working in her front garden when the process server arrived at Monica's house. She told me later that Monica had come out screaming, demanding to know what was going on. Monica called me that evening. She didn't sound like my daughter anymore. She sounded like someone I'd never met. Mama, what the hell do you think you're doing? I'm fighting to get my house back. Your house? That house has been legally mine for months. You signed the papers. You can't just change your mind because you're having seller's remorse. You lied to me, Monica. You told me it was temporary. I never said that. The notary remembers differently. There was a long pause. When Monica spoke again, her voice was cold. Mama, you're making a big mistake. Do you have any idea how much lawyers cost? You're going to spend your life savings fighting something you can't win. Ms. Martinez is working on contingency. She believes we have a strong case. That woman is taking advantage of you, just like you think I am. Mama, drop this lawsuit. Let me sell the house. I'll make sure you get a nice place at Sunset Meadows. You'll have your own apartment, meals provided, activities. It'll be good for you. I don't want activities and provided meals. I want my home. Then you're going to lose everything trying to get it back. She hung up. 2 weeks later, I was weeding my flower bed when a car I didn't recognize pulled into my driveway. A man in an expensive suit got out and walked toward me. Mrs. Washington? I'm James Coleman. I represent your daughter in the lawsuit you filed. Monica had hired her own lawyer, a real estate attorney who specialized in property disputes. I'd like to discuss a settlement offer with you and your attorney. What kind of settlement? May I? He gestured toward my porch chairs. I nodded, curious despite myself. Mr. Coleman sat down and opened his briefcase. Mrs. Washington, my client recognizes that there may have been some miscommunication about the nature of the deed transfer. Miscommunication. As if Monica accidentally tricking me was just a simple misunderstanding. She's prepared to offer you a generous settlement. When the house sells, you'll receive 40% of the proceeds after expenses. That should be enough to purchase a very nice condominium or set you up comfortably in a senior living facility. 40% of my own house. Well, technically, it's not your house anymore. But in the interest of family harmony, my client is willing to share the profits from the sale. I stood up. Mr. Coleman, please tell my daughter that I'll see her in court. He packed up his briefcase, no longer smiling. Mrs. Washington, I should warn you that if you continue with this lawsuit and lose, you could be responsible for our legal fees as well as your own. That could amount to tens of thousands of dollars. Then I better not lose. As his car pulled away, Mrs. Patterson came over from her yard. Lorraine, honey, I couldn't help but overhear. Are you okay? Monica hired a lawyer to fight me. Mrs. Patterson shook her head. That girl has lost her mind, fighting her own mother in court. That night, I lay in bed thinking about everything that had led to this moment. Monica hadn't called since our last conversation. No text messages, no emails, nothing. It was like I'd become a stranger to her, or maybe she'd become a stranger to me. The next few months were difficult. The lawsuit moved slowly through the courts. Monica never tried to contact me directly, but her lawyer kept pushing settlement offers. First 40%, then 50%. When I rejected that, they offered 60% of the sale proceeds. She's getting nervous, Ms. Martinez told me after the latest offer. If she was confident she'd win, she wouldn't keep trying to settle. Meanwhile, I was learning things about Monica's financial situation that shocked me. During the discovery process, we found out she had significant debts. Credit cards, a second mortgage on her own house, loans against her car. My house wasn't just a financial opportunity for her, it was a lifeline. Mrs. Washington, Miss Martinez said during one of our meetings, I think your daughter might be in more financial trouble than you realized. Sometimes people do desperate things when they're drowning in debt. The idea that Monica might have been struggling and never told me was almost as hurtful as the betrayal itself. Why hadn't she come to me for help? We could have figured something out together. But then I remembered how she looked at me that day with the real estate agent. Like I was an obstacle, not her mother. Maybe she'd stopped seeing me as someone who could help a long time ago. 6 months into the lawsuit, something unexpected happened. Mrs. Patterson called me early one morning. Lorraine, you need to look outside. There's a for sale sign in your front yard. I ran to my window. Sure enough, there was a bright yellow sign with Monica's real estate company logo planted right in the middle of my lawn. I called Ms. Martinez immediately. They can't do that, she said. There's a court order preventing any sale while the lawsuit is pending. I'm calling the judge's chambers right now. Within 2 hours, Monica's lawyer was on the phone with Ms. Martinez, claiming it was a misunderstanding that one of their agents had placed the sign by mistake. The sign was removed that afternoon, but the message was clear. Monica was playing hardball. But she'd made a mistake. Putting up that sign showed exactly what her intentions had been all along, to sell my house as quickly as possible, regardless of how I felt about it. Ms. Martinez filed a motion with the judge, citing the sign incident as proof of bad faith. Mrs. Washington, I think they just strengthened our case significantly. The court date was set for early October. As it approached, I felt a mixture of anxiety and determination I'd never experienced before. I was about to sit in a courtroom and testify against my own daughter. 3 days before the hearing, Monica called me. Her voice was different, smaller, uncertain. Mama? It's me. Hello, Monica. Mama, I want to talk to you, not lawyer to lawyer, just us. Can I come over? Part of me wanted to say no, part of me wanted to hang up and never speak to her again. But she was still my daughter, and despite everything, I still loved her. Come over. An hour later, Monica was sitting on my couch. She looked terrible, thinner than I'd ever seen her, dark circles under her eyes, her usually perfect hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Mama, I need you to understand something. I'm in trouble. Real trouble. What kind of trouble? Financial trouble. I owe people money. A lot of money. And if I don't pay them back soon. She trailed off, staring at her hands. Monica, why didn't you tell me this before? Why didn't you ask for help? She laughed bitterly. What help? Mama, you live on Social Security and Dad's pension. I make more in a month than you see all year. Made. Past tense. What do you mean? Mama, I haven't sold a house in 4 months. The market's terrible, and with this lawsuit hanging over me, my reputation is shot. Some of my clients found out I'm being sued by my own mother for property fraud. Would you buy a house from someone like that? I'd never thought about how the lawsuit might affect her business. For the first time since this all started, I felt a flicker of sympathy for her. Monica, if you'd just told me the truth from the beginning. The truth? She stood up, pacing my living room. The truth is that I saw an opportunity and I took it. Yes, I lied to you about the deed being temporary. But Mama, you would never have signed those papers if you'd known they were permanent. Exactly, because it's my house. Your house that you can't afford to maintain. Your house that you rattle around in all alone. Your house that's worth more money than you'll see in your entire retirement. My house where I've lived for 30 years, where I raised you, where your father died. Monica stopped pacing and looked at me. Really looked at me, maybe for the first time in months. Mama, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I lied to you. I'm sorry I tried to force you out. I'm sorry for all of it, but I can't give the house back. Even if I wanted to, I've already borrowed against it. If I lose it now, I'll lose everything. You borrowed against my house? It's not your house anymore, Mama. Legally, it's mine. And yes, I took out a home equity loan against it. That's how I've been paying my bills for the past few months. I sat down heavily. Not only had she stolen my house, she'd put it at risk. How much do you owe? On the house, $80,000. $80,000. On a house I'd owned free and clear. Monica, you have to understand. This house is all I have. It's my security, my independence. Without it, I'm just a poor old woman with nowhere to go. You're not old, Mama. You're 63. You could live anywhere. I want to live here. We sat in silence for a while. Finally, Monica spoke. What if we could work something out, off the books, between us? What if I signed the house back over to you, but you agreed to let me live here too? We could share expenses, and when something happens to you, I'd inherit it anyway. She wanted me to die. Not actively, but the plan required my death to work. No, Monica. Mama, please, think about it. We could be a family again. We stopped being a family the day you decided to steal from me. Monica stood up, her face hardening again. Fine, then I'll see you in court. After she left, I called Miss Martinez and told her about the conversation. She borrowed against the property? Miss Martinez sounded shocked. Mrs. Washington, this changes everything. If she encumbered the property with debt after fraudulently obtaining it, that's additional evidence of her intent to permanently deprive you of ownership. What does that mean for the case? It means we're going to win. 2 days later, we were in court. I sat at a table next to Ms. Martinez, wearing my best dress, the navy blue one with the pearl buttons that I'd worn to Monica's college graduation. Across the aisle, Monica sat with her lawyer. She wouldn't look at me. The judge, a woman about my age with kind eyes and gray hair, listened carefully as Miss Martinez presented our case. She called Karen Mitchell to testify about what she'd heard during the document signing. She presented evidence of Monica's misrepresentations and the home equity loan she'd taken out. Then it was my turn to testify. Mrs. Washington, Ms. Martinez said gently, please tell the court what your daughter told you about the deed transfer. I looked directly at Monica as I spoke. She told me it was temporary. She said it was for tax reasons and that my name would go back on the deed after 6 months. Did you ever agree to permanently transfer ownership of your home? No, never. If she'd told me the truth, I never would have signed those papers. When Monica's lawyer cross-examined me, he tried to make me seem confused, like an elderly woman who didn't understand what she was signing. But I held my ground. I wasn't confused. I'd been lied to. Then Monica testified. She admitted to telling me the transfer was temporary but claimed she'd also explained the legal realities. It was her word against mine, except for one thing, Karen Mitchell's testimony. The judge took a recess to review the evidence. When she returned, her expression was serious. This court finds that the defendant obtained the plaintiff's consent to transfer property through material misrepresentation. The deed transfer is hereby declared void, and the property is ordered returned to Mrs. Blank. Washington immediately. I felt like I could breathe again for the first time in months. But the judge wasn't finished. Furthermore, since the defendant has encumbered the property with an $80,000 lien, she is ordered to satisfy that debt within 90 days or face additional legal action. Monica's face went white. Her lawyer whispered something to her urgently. As we left the courthouse, Monica caught up with me in the hallway. Mama, I don't have $80,000. If I can't pay off that loan, they'll foreclose on the house. You'll lose it anyway. That's your problem, not mine. Please, can't we work something out? I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. The little girl who used to bring me dandelions from the yard was gone. In her place was a woman who'd put her own mother's security at risk for money. Monica, you made your choices. Now you have to live with them. So that's it? After everything, you're just going to let me lose everything? You mean like you were going to let me lose everything? She had no answer for that. 3 weeks later, Monica managed to pay off the home equity loan. I never asked where she got the money, and she never told me. The deed was transferred back to my name, and for the first time in almost a year, I truly owned my home again. Monica and I don't speak anymore. Sometimes I see her car drive past my house, but she never stops. Mrs. Patterson told me she heard Monica had to sell her own house to pay off the loan. Part of me feels sorry for her, but a bigger part of me knows that she brought it on herself. I still live in my house, still tend my roses, still wake up every morning grateful to be in the place I've called home for 3 decades. The house is worth over $300,000 now, just like Monica said. And when I die, it will go to charity. Every penny of it. Monica taught me something valuable, even if she didn't mean to. She taught me that blood doesn't always mean loyalty, and that sometimes the most important person you need to protect is yourself. I'm 63 years old, and I'm not going anywhere. This is my house, my home, my sanctuary, and nobody, not even my own daughter, will ever take that away from me again.